Oh, g'day guys, Draven Art here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to hand stencil a realistic rose, getting ready for your next tattoo. So tune in and let's get to it. So first of all, why do we even hand stencil when there's so many gizmos and gadgets and iPads and all that jazz that will do it for you? Well, I think it's an actually great way to learn the tattoo before you even tattoo it. You can learn contrast, values, where to put certain shades, where to put certain lines, and it's really good for muscle memory. I do it for all of my realism, not so much my neo-trad and trad stuff, because it's a bit hard to get the straight lines and maybe little circles and stuff like that, but it's really good for realism. I wouldn't do it any other way. I've tried it on the iPad. It feels a little too mechanical, and I don't know, it's just what I do. So you can do it on the iPad, but I just choose not to. So anyway, what do we actually need to hand stencil? Well, we need a pen. I actually like using these pens. I put some co-wrap over it just so it's easier to grip. It's actually a pretty cheap pen. I don't know, you can get them from anywhere, Coles, Woolies, or whatever. Just a real cheap one. I find these have to be I like them when they're quite stable and don't move around like the tip. So it's a little ballpoint cheap one. So we need a pen. And then most importantly, we need some stencil paper. We also need some gloves, because let's face it, stenciling can get super messy. You end up looking like a smurf. So get yourself some gloves before you get started. Then we need something hard to lean on. I like my iPad, so I just use my iPad to do all my hand stencils. Not to actually use the iPad, but just I sit the stencil on top, just for something hard to lean on, and I go from there. And last of all, we need our design. So here's one I prepared earlier. Grab your trusty stencil paper, get one sheet out, and all you need to do is take off this top layer and remove this one, keeping just the blue and the yellow. So grab your something hard, which is my iPad in this case. Boop. Plonk that down there, grab your rose, plonk that over the top. Before we actually start on the rose itself, I thought I would just show you a few of the techniques I use to actually hand stencil. So there are a couple. With solid lines, I like to just drag my line. I don't usually like to go in one motion because it doesn't come out like super solid. If I'm doing something and I want it super solid, I'll make sure to just drag it around like that. And then when you're spacing out shadows or trying to get your values, I use a lot of dot movements just to mark stuff out to where certain shadows go. And I also use a technique, it's kind of like cross-hatching or stippling in a way, but let's just say if I wanted to know, I don't know, let's say that's a leaf, like in the picture. If I wanted to know where the black is, sometimes I'll mark it out with dots, like that, and then I'll kind of cross-hatch, just so when I'm tattooing, I'll remember where the black goes. And then I'll also do another one, I call these whippy boys, just to get certain values into my rose or where to do certain things. So that's pretty much it. I'm sure I forgot something, but I'll teach you along the way. So let's get to it. Alright, off we go. Look at there, I've already got blue and I haven't even started yet, so it gets messy. Alright, so I'm going to start down the bottom here, and then I usually work my way up. So we're going to start off with this leaf. And like I said before, we're just going to put it really solid, going back and forth, following that line, because I want those to stay there. And there. So that's how we do the leaf. We will be putting some black in here, so we're going to be doing different shades. So we're going to dot along here, and that's where we're going to be putting our black shadows, and same for this side. I don't know if you can see close enough, but I do have little thorns coming off the leaves, so make sure we put them in. I just do little whips, and that's pretty much that leaf ready to go. So what we'll do is we'll do that on all those sort of leaves, and then we'll start with all the other stuff, but we're just going to show you the little basics now, and then we'll do a bit of a time lapse, and then you can see what I've done. So next up, we'll start with the little water drops. So with these, same technique, is just go around nice and solid, because I want them to stay. And then we've got to remember the shadow. So I like to use my little whippy boys. So you're not pressing too hard, because you don't want certain shadows to stay, otherwise you'll spend too long wiping. So see how we've got little shadows along there, and then we do the same for the top. Just have them nice and feathered in. See, these are my secret water drops. I will show you all in another video on how I actually do these. So there we go. The water drop is all done, and then we do that obviously for the remainder of the water drops. Alright, let's get to the leaves. Well, petals, we should say. So once again, feather that out all the way around. Don't be scared to move your hand stencil around, although I've got to go in a certain way, because otherwise there's shadows everywhere. We'll quickly do this, and then I'll flip it over and show you what I've done so far. Oh, got a listing tape. So always check on what you've done to see how it's going. See how we've got the leaf along there, and also the petals. I accidentally drew on the back of that, so give me 2 seconds. I've got to start again and get another piece of paper. Alright, back to it. I did a fresh rose that I haven't drawn on the back, so I'll just give you a little glimpse of what I've done so far. So always check up on your design and how it's going. See, we've got the leaf there, and that's nice and solid. That's going to stay on the stencil real nice. So let's get back over again and start stenciling again. So I'm going to show you how to do these little light shades across here. So the trick with the lighter shades is you don't want to put a bunch of like really solid stuff there. You don't want to cross hatch it too much. I like to just go across like that, because you don't want to spend a lot of time wiping, especially with the values of the rose that are quite light. So you can just go in there and feather in your grey wash along here, and not have to worry too much about overworking or over wiping and stuff like that. So we've got another one along here, so let's mark that out. Like that. If you wanted to, you can put little whips, just not too many. I like to put little whips in a lot of my stuff, just so I know which way I'm going to like feather out stuff with my grey wash. Alright, so we've got some hard lines along here, so we want to make them real solid so they stay. I'm a bit wonky there, I'm trying to work around this camera, it's a bit hard. So more solid lines. Alright, hard up against this black. So I want another nice solid line, and then I'm going to quickly show you how I do my blacks. So again, see how you've got a nice dark spot there to a light gradient that like feathers out. So once again, dotted lines to to where you want the last bit of your light grey wash to end. And then you've got your dark blacks. And this is where I like to use the whippy boys. So you whip it out, nice. Because they say, the better the stencil, the better the tattoo. So always take your extra time to get stuff right. And then where it's extra dark, I just like to put a little bit of extra in there, you know. And I'll quickly flip it over and show you again what it looks like. Alright, flip it over and look at that, see? So we've got our lights marked out with our little dots where they're going to end, and also our dark spots. You can darken up that a bit more if you wanted to, but I like to just leave it like that. So flip it back over. And I think the most important part about a rose is also the middle part, because that can be a bit tricky sometimes. So we want to go along these edges. Usually I work from the bottom up, but for purposes of the video, we're not. So scrub it back and forth like I showed you before. Get these nice and solid. See, the best thing about where there's black, you can actually either line these, because these are going to be quite solid. So I would usually line these with maybe like a 5 tight liner. And see how you've got a little bit of negative space there and lighter shade. So first off, you want to do your little dot again. But you really got to notice where the blacks and the negative space is. So you're probably better off lining this petal here, where all the white is, with a light grey wash shade, because it's not all black. Do you get what I mean? So see along here how that's not black? Probably line that or feather up to it with a shader. So we're going to line these bottom edges when we're tattooing it, because that's where the prominent black is. And then what we do is really get in there and up and down, do the cross hatching that I told you about, and make sure you do those whippy boys where you want your darks to be and where you want the end of your grey washes to feather out. Just get it really dark, really cross-hatched. See, I like to point my whips in the direction that I'm going to be feathering out my grey wash, just for memory wise, and just in case I know where I'm whipping really, and where I'm going to feather out. Make sure that's nice and hard. Oh, that didn't sound right. Nice and solid, not nice and hard, just so it stays on the design. I'm going to do the same with this bit. See, this is quite dark in here, so nice and hard again, if you know what I'm saying. But that's going to be all dark. So we're going to scrub that out, or scrub it in, so it's nice and dark. Then we're going to flip it over and I'll show you what we've done so far. So that's the middle bit, nice and dark, ready to go. Flip it back over. Alright, and again, if you look really closely, there's some slight veins in this petal. So we're going to put a few of those in, just for extra effect. You can do these quite light, you don't want them heaps solid, you just want them to stay in there a little bit. And once again, you could probably do this with a light, maybe a lightest tone grey wash, and just line them in, because we're probably going to shade over them afterwards. A few little veins. Or you could do it with the side of your mag. Alright, just like that. Yeah, and then we've got light shadows up on this petal again. So there, put your dots, your little liney boys. Sweet. And then also I like to mark out with more with more dots. So we can still see our lines, and we can still also see where our shadow is. So that's pretty much hand stenciling. So I'm going to switch it over to a time lapse and show you how I do it all through time lapse, and then I'll flip it over and show you the end result. Alright, so that's pretty much all done now. I did add some extra lines into the leaves just to give it something a bit extra. I didn't mark the background. You don't need to, you just put that in last. Always trust your reference. Also, yeah, marked out some of these along here where the blacks are going to be. I didn't put my whippy boys because you don't really need to. These are going to be quite dark. I like to contrast my leaves. This is quite a light rose, especially these outer petals. So always make sure to get some contrast in there. And I like to do that with my leaves. It makes it just really stand out and pop. So we'll give it a once over and see if there's anything else that needs to be done. And then I'll give you a bit of a look at the final result. So the best way to see if you've missed anything is you flip it over and hold it up to a bright light just to see if you've missed anything, and then you pop it back down and redo, but I don't think I have, so we'll flip it over anyway. We won't hold it up to the light. And look at that. There we go. We missed that line up along there. You're always guaranteed to miss something. Flip it back over. Remember which one we missed. I think it was this one. Maybe. Not too sure. We'll do this one just in case as well. Alright, flip it over again. Ah, it was one of those. We got him. Sweet. We might go back in and darken this lot up, because that middle part is what stuffs people up a lot, is they don't stencil it hard enough, and that's one of the first things to disappear, and one of the most important things of a rose. It disappears while you tattoo on, and then they just make it up, and it just doesn't look right. So always make sure you get this middle bit spot on. So quickly go back in there, darken it up a little bit, make sure we get every little detail, even go over the lines we've already done just to make sure that it's there. Just like so, that bit there. Oh, I did forget a little bit in here. Sweet. Now that's pretty well done. So that's the best thing about, like, you've got to take your time as much as you can doing any hand stencil. The better you do it, the better the outcome is going to be. And now, like, I already know where the values are, where to contrast, where to shade, before I even tattoo it, because it's already marked out for me. Super good muscle memory, and just really good prep just before you even tattoo it. Always put that extra little bit into it. Well, that's how you stencil a realistic rose. These techniques that I showed you, they can be used for pretty much any sort of design. So give them a whirl, give them a practice, and try them out. Let me know how you go in the comments. So yeah, I'll give you a little side-by-side view of what it looks like, bit of a comparison. So bear with me, I'll show you in a sec. Well, that just about wraps it up for me. Thanks for tuning in and giving it a watch. Make sure you check out my next video, which should be coming next week, hopefully, on how to actually put this stencil onto the skin and make it stay there for as long as it can while you tattoo on it. Just wanted to say thank you all for the support on my first video. I know the quality wasn't that great, so I'm hoping this one's going to be better. And yeah, thanks everyone. Stay beautiful, you beautiful people, and I'll see you next episode.